Shivani, you are live.
Oh, hello, hello.
Hello. So I'm turning. Okay. I
So
think we are
the
live on all channels.
perfect. So it's working. Very excited.
Great. So let's turn off the cameras for now.
Okay.
A thousand doomsday shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Ooh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a pull from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand doomsday shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Ooh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Where anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand doomsday shift, I sway the wind that whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime, a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Where anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand doomsday shift, I sway the wind that whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within?
Hello, hello everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
everyone.
Hey, Ashwin, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on from where you're joining.
Morning.
I think we have everybody except our host.
I'm lagging, it seems.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but we can't see you, Shivan.
Yeah, I think it's processing the camera. All right, it should be up in a second.
Great. Thanks everyone for joining. Shivani will take over in a minute or so. But I want to welcome you all to this conversation. And while I was doing the one-on-one with everybody, Dr. Sarthak had a very interesting take on this conversation, and I thought we can start from there. In the Indian mythology, there is a situation where the gods lose all the power, and they have to find a way to re, re, regain their power. And one of the ways they do it is what is called the Samudra Manthan, which means churning the ocean. And the gods have to come together and churn the ocean to get the nectar or the elixir for life. And while they do it, the first thing that comes up is poison. So I think it was a good sort of analogy to start with is when we talk about workplace well-being. I think the initial thought or the initial thing that show up are the challenges and the problems in workplace well-being. But eventually we'll find the nectar, I hope, by churning the ocean. So I thought we can start from this note. And again, welcome everybody. And back to you, Shivani.
Hi, I might have to rejoin in a second, but I will just say a few words and get the conversation started while I do that. We started something called as the Workplace Mental Health Alliance in June 27th, 2024. And it's so beautiful to see so many, experts, academics, as well as like-minded people coming together to form a mission which is just to make the world a better place. And that is also something Mana Wellness has been following since day one. The philosophy has not just been, preventive well-being at workplaces, but also how can we sort of encourage more people to take charge of their own well-being, whether it's in a community, whether it's in an organization, or whether it's just one individual trying to make it better. But there's always been, one little systemic issue that I think which is what drives this mission further, and that is you can't leave this sort of mission to just one person or one organization or just one entity, right? To make a change. So therefore we have something called as, we've got everybody here, all the experts here. I really wish you could see my face right now. I'm very excited to speak to all of you throughout this entire day today, to talk about the real problems, real challenges, as well as what all of you have been thinking about and coming up with. I'm sure we'll all come up with some really common thread throughout. So I think I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And with that, I would like to start off with our first segment for today. That is for our global listening room. We will start with our speakers here, of course. While we begin, before you start speaking, the only thing I'd request all of you to do is give us a quick intro, a very short 1 minute intro about yourselves, and then we could have a round of discussion. So, the first round of discussion for us today is, what are we still getting wrong? I know we're doing a lot of things. I know there's still a click missing. We're still getting something wrong about, specifically about well being, at work in high growth economies. And as I always do, I will tag one speaker and maybe we could start from there and we take it from there. So I'd like to hear from Jane, who has joined us today. Jane, please go ahead.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. It's so wonderful to be on a global platform with you all, and just really looking forward to this conversation. My background is in suicide prevention and mental health, and I started working in the area back in Australia in 1997, which sounds like a very long time ago, just as technology was starting to take off and just as we're starting to think about mental health and its impact on society. So I was privileged to be involved in the startup of Beyond Blue, which is our national depression initiative. I took Reach Out, which is our online youth mental health platform, across to the United States. I then came back and set up a cooperative research centre around young people, technology and wellbeing. And then from 2016, 17, I started to really think about workplace wellbeing from my own perspective, but also from the perspective of what we were seeing. I was working with veterans, defence personnel, sporting clubs, hospitality, mining, manufacturing, and we could see that psychological safety wasn't improving and that psychosocial risks were really on the rise. And our government have now legislated psychosocial safety within workplace, and we have regulators who go in and observe and prosecute if people aren't doing the right thing. So it's become very, very challenging for industry, but also challenging for people who are working in industries where there is psychosocial risk and harm. So to the question of what are we getting wrong, I think I've got 5 quick things. We tend to focus and react. We're not focused on prevention, which, again, everybody says it. I don't think many people do it. Prevention is better than cure. And yet in workplaces, we're waiting and reacting and often finding that people are becoming very unwell and having to leave work and not returning to work. So that's the first one, reaction versus prevention. We tend to focus on risk. So what are the psychosocial risks? As opposed to what would be helpful in terms of protection. And so here in Australia, we have named 16 risks that Australian companies must address to keep their workers safe. And you can imagine it's everything from job conflict right through to harassment, bullying, and everything in between. When you think about protection, though, what does it mean to actually protect workers? So all the work I've done around mental health and wellbeing, it's very, very obvious that valued participation, employment is so critical to your mental health and your wellbeing, and it helps you build those skills for life. So I've always been focused on the work environment as a strength building, capacity building. How do you learn to communicate? How do you learn to manage conflict? How do you learn to have conversations? How do you learn to work as part of a team? And yet we tend to focus on all the risky things, the horrible things, the bad things, and not support people to build up their functional skill set. I'm also mum to 3 kids, so I'm watching them as they're entering the workforce. I've got my 2 little ones working in a pizza shop, and my eldest, who lives with Down syndrome, autism, and is non-verbal, actually working in a factory 1 day a week, which is incredible. And you can see the friendships, the skills, the confidence that they're building as young people to take on the world and to be more resilient in the world. And we talk about resilience a lot, but I actually don't think we teach our young people to be resilient. And so I think workplaces really can focus on that. I do think there's a lack of understanding regarding the science of wellbeing. And you often hear people say, oh, it's wellbeing, we'll have a webinar. It's wellbeing, we'll have, we'll run a few information sessions. And all of the work that we've done, particularly around mental fitness and resilience building, is mental fitness is like physical fitness. It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you build the skills around, you learn the practices. And so we've taken the science, my business partner and I, Paula, have taken the science of wellbeing and put it into bite-sized micro-credentials so that people can learn how to practice what it means to manage and look after their mental fitness. And again, like physical fitness, it's about team, it's about endurance, it's about flexibility, and it's about strength. And so we've taken all of the positive psychology evidence and put it under those banners so that people kind of get it, rather than saying, oh, you need to do this and you should do that. You've got to get out and exercise and sort of watch your diet and watch your sleep and all of these things that are actually complex things to manage. We've sort of said, how do we put it into tiny habits that actually improve and that you can practice constantly so that you improve your mental health? I think, again, here in Australia and globally, we're seeing a big emphasis on measuring psychosocial risk, identifying the risks, putting in mitigants, but then not really thinking about, well, how do we actually now build a flourishing, thriving, productive workforce, and what does it look like for our leaders to lead with all of those amazing skill sets that make people love coming to work and love getting out of bed. So I might finish there. Where I'm seeing us getting it wrong, certainly here in Australia, and as a global company, we're starting to work across in the hospitality sector with countries like the UK, the US, and increasingly Asia and the Pacific. And it doesn't look any different from what we can see. There's stress, there's burnout, people are feeling anxious, they're getting depressed, they're feeling that they're not being supported. So as a global movement to support workplace wellbeing, I think we really need to push hard and compel people to say, what does the science of this look like? And how do we actually really build momentum around prevention and prevention within industries, regardless of what that industry is, whether it's hospitality or whether it's defense or whether it's manufacturing or mining or whether it's corporate. People are people and human, and they require and desire connection and compassion and support. So all of those things are good. Again, coming back to the strengths-based prevention and more of the protective rather than the risk focus are my things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. Can you tag another speaker so that we all have a quick discussion amongst ourselves?
I can't see anyone's name.
Okay. How about Harish? We'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Shivani. Jane very well summarized, I would say. Many of the thoughts, even very similar to what I was kind of, having in my mind. A quick intro to begin with. My name is Harish Ernezat, and I'm based in India, Bangalore to be very precise. I lead an organization called Stanford Seed, which belongs to the Stanford University Graduate School of Business. And we work with small and medium enterprises in these markets. When I say in these markets, emerging markets like South Asia, Africa, Southeast Asia. And we work with these companies to help them, scale up their businesses. We run a couple of programs in our regions. That's how we try to live our mission, which is very similar to what Shivani started off, making the world a better place. And we think that SMEs are the backbone when it comes to the economies, these emerging economies, and that's how the focus is. For us at Stanford Seed, we call ourselves, and in fact, if you spend a day with us, you will see how mission aligned we are. So it presents a very sweet challenge for us, because most of our team members are highly mission driven. We spend like months and months to kind of recruit and find the people who really believe in this mission. So when they come in, they are very purpose driven, so to say. So everything should feel very strong, very right. But what also happens is that this purpose or driven by purpose also can quietly accumulate pressure over a period of time. Everyone at the face of it, everyone would appear very strong, but that strength would not always mean, that silence would not always mean strength. So that is the question that internally we started to ask, that how do we give voice to this silence, right? So that's how we got into this journey of embracing or giving importance or prioritizing mental well-being, so to say. Now, coming to the question that we have, why do organizations still ignore psychological safety and the systemic well-being? I have a kind of a deferred opinion on this, because I will also restrict my thoughts, my expressions very focused to the region, which is South Asia, and primarily we are in India. So I see both situations. Some organizations who are taking or have taken a preventive approach, but then there are definitely many of them who are still, taking a reactive approach, somehow waiting for something to break and then start to, think of systems or solutions. And that's where things sometimes appear or it manifests like, oh, when you look at the region, probably we are not really prioritizing mental well-being. And based on my limited experience with these organizations, good and not bad, but waiting to kind of explore, it's primarily so they don't consciously ignore it. Many of them have not seen the impact of not really taking care of their employees or themselves, for example. So there is a bit of, I would say, lack of awareness, and hence they don't end up prioritizing. And when I close my eyes and think of why that is happening, I think it all goes back to the culture, because culture plays a very big role in terms of how we look at situations, how we handle expectations, how we respond to the stressful environment, right? So, a few things come top of my mind. Just thinking back as a child, growing up over last 50 years. Um, in our society, the environment had been, it's changing now, but the environment was more like people or enduring, quietly or silently or bearing difficulty without complaining. That was seen as a virtue. So it's a matter of character, right? Expressing any kind of emotional struggle would kind of attract discussion because it was a signal of weakness, right? And over a period of time, all of us coming from that generation would kind of mentally get tuned to that kind of a thinking. And the result can be that if you look across organizations, there are going to be very high performing, extremely high performing individuals, but they still carry a very big internal load, but they have learned how to kind of, show calm and composed from outside. But what happens is they carry the same expectation to the team members or to the organizations that you should be able to handle stress, right? So that conditioning somehow shapes how we all as leaders lead, how, and hence our teams, how they function, and what is actually considered acceptable to talk about at work, right? So it starts from our childhoods and the way it kind of flows down to the way we lead in the organizations. That also is in a way the way things are manifesting in our society, in the organizations, etc. So that's one thing. The other thing is, this may be common across the cultures also, the conditional worth, I would say. Like how do we handle failure in our societies, right? So for example, a child who does not score very well, so directly or indirectly, the kids are told that, hey, you are less than others who are scoring probably better. And over time that child unknowingly also learns that I must not fail, right? I must be the one who needs to deliver, who needs to hold everything together. And when things do not go their way, they feel disappointed, they feel stressed. And over the years the same person becomes a manager, and without any I would say conscious intention, they build a team culture that only celebrates the green ticks, or only celebrates the wins. So the struggle would not have any place on the agenda. And most of the corporates, we don't have wellness showing on our MIS or dashboard, right? And that's where usually the focus is. So
Yeah.
that's the second thing which we, at least in our culture, that also I think is leading to this manifestation of the issue. And last, this is something which, these global summits, beautiful work Mana is doing to get people together and talk about this more like a, an issue, not an issue, but something which we need to kind of, prioritize. Because in our culture, there is an absence, I would be very honest here, there is an absence of vocabulary for mental well-being. in our society, right? So the mainstream language around mental wellness was in fact not existing. It's changing over the past decade. It's definitely improving. But if you think of an organization, you will see a lot of team members who are like 35 plus, 40 plus, and when they were growing up, no one would use the words like, let's say, anxiety or uh, emotional baggage or emotional exhaustion or cognitive overload and all that, right? So they have chosen to kind of be groomed that way. They have chosen silence, which again translates into the culture. So I think these are few things, and I strongly feel that the regional routines, societal routines, the culture plays a very big role in what the situation is currently. But things are changing. I'm also, that's why I started off saying that there are organizations who are also investing in the preventive approach. There are leaders who have stopped treating well-being as a program, but they've started to treat it more like a routine, right? uh, they openly accept failures or their own shortcomings, right? So they show how to normalize such situations. And then obviously, you start to shift, because then the team members or the organization also feels that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to kind of, not have all the answers, right? So, so I think that's a positive shift. People in those kind of setups will start to feel safe. They will, start to perform better. They will stay longer. Those are benefits also. So end
Thank
of
you
the
so
day,
much.
it's
So, Harish, what I was thinking was that, I will pull you into this conversation as we move ahead for where does well-being really break down as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because I feel like what you're talking about is really important, especially the failure in society part. And like that has been one of the biggest things, and also the reactive aspect of things, right? You rightly said where people just sort of react nowadays. They don't think about the prevention, they just think about what is going to come up in reaction. So where well-being does break down is going to be part of our next conversation as well. While we're going to come to that, I do want to hear a lot of like straightforward points from our speakers. Thank you so much again. I want Montserrat. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right. Please introduce yourself to please come ahead and tell us some really like, what are we really getting wrong? I want us to get into the straightforwardness of this conversation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, good. You pronounce it properly. It's Montserrat. It's actually a mountain in Barcelona, where I'm from, and an island in the Caribbean, where I'm not from, but I've been there. So basically, I have more than 30 years experience combining 360 from the industry. I work in some of the most important companies in the world, Inditex, when before it was Inditex, Zara, Massimo Dutti. I work there. I have worked at Dior, and I'm one of the people responsible of Great Place to Work in Europe. I was part of the founding team from a grant where we brought it from the US to Europe. So I'm one of the people who have seen these concepts grow. I'm lucky enough. I also been an entrepreneur. So bottom line, because I want to go to the gritty nitty, as you say, um, I have worked in companies as a consultant, in academia, as I am now here in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, and in Mexico. In the place where people and companies meet, which is the work. I've impacted more than 2 million people and 500 companies. So this allow me to see how the well-being, now we call it, in the 90s, it didn't exist. We talk about a stress, pattern of behavior. When I was at university, I'm a psychologist. I also have an MBA. So basically, what we're getting wrong, in my opinion, and to be a little bit contradictory, is not policy or culture. I mean, if I agree with that perhaps it's a lack of awareness yet. However, we have to look at one fact: we have more programs than ever in well-being. In all companies, in all countries, across the countries, we have more conversations about well-being, mental health, stress than ever before. Those a little bit older than me will agree. So we do have a vocabulary, But what we don't have, perhaps, is the action. How we pass this conversation. You remember the song of Elvis? A little bit less conversation, a little bit more action. So I believe companies know that they need well-being in action. However, there is a breakdown and it's not trickling down to people because of one of the main problems in organizations. It's not leadership, it's management. There is a difference, crucial difference between management and leadership. Kotter said it better than I quote him. He said, companies are over-managed and under-led. There you have your answer. Managers are managing KPIs. They're managing for the top and they are managing for KPI, you cannot manage for that because a KPI also need to evolve. They are too simple, especially in HR. We have things like hours of learning. Come on. Hours of learning is nothing if you don't learn. Hours of training is irrelevant. What we need to know is how is performance. Well-being is not a nice to have. Well-being is not a perk. Sorry, it's not. It's nice, we can have it, but well-being needs to be embedded in the strategy and in the mindset and in the actions of every manager. And I have to say, it's not, especially in certain cultures. I'm lucky enough, I have worked in the US, in Latin America, in Europe, in the UAE, in the Middle East, and some part of Asia to Australia. I work a little bit with some companies there. So the problem, everything in the top management, in the strategies, in the values looks great. However, the manager still has very simple KPIs and cannot see the relationship between people, between well-being and results. And that is the problem. But we have done many experiments. There are many data in the academic world that shows that if your people is not in well-being and they are in the bad being, they are stressed, they are not going to be resolved in the long term. You're going to have indicators and KPI that go down, but you cannot easily attribute that. So that is the problem. The managers are still managing people with this pressure, and then people are listening. Oh, but there is these things we can do, but you cannot do it. So there is this impasse between what we say and what we do that is really costing, having high cost in our mental health, and there is no wealth without health, and there is no health without mental health. So we have a problem. I mean, when I look at the data of young people, we do have a problem, because people are suffering. And we are not tackling the problem. So initiatives like the Global Workplace Wellbeing Summit is more important. They are more important than ever. And what we need to do is to be able to move from cultures of fear, which there are many fear at that middle management level, uses fear to manage people, and that doesn't work because fear freezes you. Fear makes you helpless. And if we go into neuroscience, and we don't have time, there is a neurocircuit that activates when you feel fear. And the only way to deactivate it is hope. Martin Seligman talked about that in his last book, The Circuit of Hope. So what we need, companies, but that will be for the next conversation, is to move from fear to hope, and agency in people. So I think where well-being breakdown in fast-growing organizations and in not growing organizations too is in that middle management big liar that is stopping, not intentionally. They are the first ones, they are also stressed, but the level of stress is higher than ever. The level of absenteeism, in Spain recently is almost like an inner pandemic, and it's declared even in the New York Times. They wrote an article about how the inner pandemic is well-being, or the lack of it rather, ill-being, or how we want to call it, bad being. We have to design a war for our enemy, but that's the problem. I think policy-wise, we are getting there more or less. All countries, once slower. Cultures, there is no culture who believe being stressed is going to work. However, in the day-to-day, managers need to become more of a leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think those were really insightful points, specifically about the action part. And I love Elvis, so I'm going to take that today.
Thank you.
All right. So we have Gaira. Would you like to please share a few thoughts? And then Sartak.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who shared their thoughts. It basically sums up everything that I would like to say as well. But just for a quick introduction, my name is Gaira, and I'm one of the psychologists in an airline in the UAE. So those three things, I would say, really kind of is something that is I would really like to talk about because psychology, airline, and the UAE at the moment are kind of not in sync because of the geopolitical tensions that are going on, and airlines are still flying from the UAE, and we have basically, I feel like this is the moment where our understanding of well-being in our organization was really tested, because we are asking our operational crew to fly regardless of the situation. We are asking our operational crew to, kind of be at risk, right? Even though we understand that there are procedures in place that stop them from actually literally being at risk, but it's not some if our crew feel that they are not safe, it's not something that we can just force them to stop feeling, right? So like I said, it's really tested how we understand, or how we understand organizational well-being, and how our people understand that as well. And it really helped me because, as you've mentioned earlier, before we started these questions, we've been thinking about it. We've been, turning it over in our head over the past couple of days. And I think the main mistake, or, mistake that most companies are doing when it comes to well-being is that we tend to think of well-being as something that is added on top of work, something that is separate from the work that we do. A lot of the times we tend to think that, oh, if we put your well-being first, it means our productivity goes down, it means we stop doing the actual work, especially in these times, right, where a lot of our staff would say, oh, I want to take a few days off because what's been happening is starting to get to me. But then usually the response would be, I'm not saying that this is the response all the time, but sometimes there are some managers as have some managers tend to, even though the organization wants to value well-being, it doesn't always trickle down, especially to the middle managers. Some managers would respond with, you can't do that, you can't take a few days off because the work needs to be done. So we tend to kind of think that well-being is something that competes with productivity, or with getting things done, right? But in reality, well-being affects, if a poor well-being actually affects our decision making, the attention, the how much error we do, and that's especially important for people who are, for our operational crew, when they make wrong decisions during a flight, it puts 126 or something, all these people in the aircraft, it puts their lives at risk. And we tend to put a lot of responsibility, or maybe too much responsibility, on the individual as well. It's almost like there's just an expectation, right? This is happening, geopolitical tensions, whatever. That's all of that is happening. So now you have to just adapt. You just have to, be resilient. You just have to cope better. You just have to stay positive. Like there's that tendency to kind of expect that to be there, to be just, I don't know, without really focusing on what can we do to help them more resilient, what can we do to help them adapt faster. Yep. And so it just feels like we tend to focus a lot on individuals instead of the system, basically.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we over focus on kind of helping individual, all the workshops that we do on resilience, all the workshops that we do on stress management and all that, they don't really work unless the system makes it possible for them to work, right? So yeah, sometimes we over focus on helping people survive unhealthy systems instead of asking how can we change the system, or yeah, maybe it's the system that needs to change and not the people.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much. We're finally getting there. I think we're finally getting to the straightforward, crux of the sort of the question. I love that you talked about, the it sometimes well-being feels like a burden in organizations, and as for an individual as well, it just feels like, oh, I'm putting in extra hours. So I love that you brought that up, because that is a very real issue, clinical issue as well, because you get a lot of resistance from people when you start to think that it's extra work. So thank you so much. I'd now like to invite Sarthak and Ajay to please go ahead. Ajay, please, you can go ahead.
Sure, thank you so much. I'd like to start by going back to the statement which was given to us on this one. It says, what are we still getting wrong? And the operative word in that sentence is still, right? Which clearly says we've been trying at this for a while and we've not been able to, succeed at it. My name is Ajay Joel Joseph. I have about 15 years of experience, a little over 15 years of experience working with various organizations like Accenture, EY, and now Zenov, trying to build a high-performance culture. Peter Drucker, and I'm going to try and borrow his line. He's a management thinker. He said it very well. He said, if you don't measure it, you don't manage it. And it's so difficult for us to measure something like well-being, right? It's a factor of a lot of things. And how do you go back and say, how do you feel? Can we put that on a dashboard? I think one of the speakers even brought that up. It's that much more difficult for us to then take it back and say, are we doing well on this piece, right? And you put this in context to a high growth economy, and I'm trying to call out probably a comparative between a developed economy and a developing economy, or even a growth economy like India. It's so much more difficult, right? Workload is not a problem. Timelines are not a problem. What really becomes a problem is some sense of unfairness. And when you look at well-being itself, well-being would become an initiative where it's almost cosmetic. It's not real. You have programs, right? How many of us within our organizations, you do have an app, you have a policy, you have a program, but probably even a dedicated budget. But when you go back to your employees and ask them how do they feel, that perception of that gap is real, right? And they don't really feel like they've been supported with the right tools and techniques to feel like I am being supported within this space. Another piece which I'd like to bring up is, in some sense, we have different generations which within the workforce at the moment. Well-being looks very different for me versus someone in the Gen Z generation versus someone in the boomer generation, right? So how do we try and bring that level of flexibility and then still offer that up for these folks across the board? My previous speaker also mentioned, we're surviving unhealthy systems, and that's adding to the whole bit, where people don't really, call it out, and it becomes so much more difficult for us to then build this gap which has been perceived. I would close by saying we're solving for a perception of care rather than the real experience of it, and that could be a definite issue as we move along. Sorry, for some reason everyone's dropped off, but yeah, I'm hoping it wasn't because of me. But
Just
yes.
in the backstage. They're just in the backstage. They're very well listening. Don't
All
worry.
right, all right. Thanks, appreciate
This
it.
is
So,
their first time. Yes.
sure. Thanks. Back to you, Shivani. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I really appreciate what Mana does within the space. So much, so much for us to achieve. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and I hope as we move along, the balance between growth and well-being is maintained and managed. That's going to be really a key aspect for us as we grow as a geography, as an organization, as an ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajay. I know you're running late and still you're able to come in here and just give us your words. I think that was so well structured and so well said. Sarthak, over to you, and then we'll move on to our
Yeah,
full conversation, which I'm very excited about as well. So over to you.
sure. I will just keep it short. Okay. Hi, everyone. Uh, am I audible, right, Shivani?
Yes, you are. You are.
Okay. Okay. So I'm Dr. Sar, and I come from a very different background. So I have been in this field since last 10, 11 years. And during I started with my PhD research, which was focused on sexual violence, which was focused on rape offenders and their victims and their well-being. And period, I also worked as an and well-being of prisoners and how health is being impacted because of incarceration, and also well-being of police officers and prison staff altogether. After that, I worked with the government of India. Specifically, I was working with Ministry of Home Affairs as a forensic scientist, and also I helped in well-being of people who are connected into forensic science services. And after that, I have been 3.5 years. I am working in a company called Muthoot FinCorp. It is one of India's largest NBFC, where we have 25,000 plus employees. Here, I'm working as a behavioral scientist and psychologist. I'm heading a initiative called as MHT, which is Muthoot's Health Triangle. So, if I would say that what are we looking, we are still getting wrong. It is, I think, all about when we focus only on few of days, we awaken ourselves, only on some mental health day or Women's Day, and some of those days we do activities when we are involved in such a large organization where we have 25,000 plus people. So the even one time say, generally we chat text each other TGIF, thank God it's right. So I don't want that, and everyone should feel lively at work. So for that, what I thought of doing is, when we speak about holistic being or everybody holistic. So when I talk about triangle employees, even all 25,000 employees, we about everyone the time and in a way every day. So not would feel left out. So I generally feel that we are one more thing we not do is something called as brain capital. In the age of economy, high growth economies and all, we need to focus on our people also make able to make brain capital as in an organization or as for the nation and on, and if we speak about as globally, because importance of and brain skill is something also connected with well-being, and which employees would be taking with them all together. So was short of time, I will just stop here. That was thoughts. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much. Just don't go anywhere. Stay in the backstage. We will move on to our
Yeah.
fish conversation now. Um, the next thing that I'd like to invite a couple of our previous speakers as well as our new speakers for is, we've talked about the whole, in the last sort of 40-ish minutes, what I've learned is that, we've got a lot of challenges that we can see as experts, and there's this whole thing about not being able to take action, which stuck with me a lot of things about safety came up, people not feeling psychologically safe. That is obviously, like, that has been the prominent theme, I think, when we talk about workplace well-being, so for so many decades and so on. I love the fact that we talked about, well-being feels like extra work, and also that these workshops and events and things we do at workplaces feels like, oh, it's like a one-off thing. So let's get together for, World Mental Health Day, and let's do like a massive event, or let's do a festival and let's do a massive event. Where does it really go on from there? We don't know, right? So this brings me to our next conversation. I'd like to invite other speakers. I'll pull you guys right in. We're talking about, where does well-being really break down here, right? Where does it break down? And in fast growing organizations, mostly the organizations that we've worked with, that is, does it break down at leadership, at policy, or at culture, right? We've touched upon a couple of these things in the previous conversation, but let's hear a little bit more. So we have All right, you're up, Muaz. Muaz, you are on. Just give me a moment. I'm pulling out all of our speakers for this segment. Yes. And especially the ones who touched upon this topic in the previous conversation. All right, perfect. Lovely. So, where does well being break down? Muaz? If I'm saying your name incorrectly, please correct me.
No. You're saying Montserrat. Forget the T. Forget the T. Well, I think as I was saying before, I agree with what everybody say. I believe we have placed too much emphasis in the individual, and also perhaps in the culture to a certain extent. But my answer still stands, that the well-being breaks down in any organization that wants to grow or not, but in the management. So in the people who really impact the well-being of people, as you very well say, is not having one day off, is not going to therapy when you are already, perhaps it's too late already because you already have, I mean, with well-being is like, have you ever tried to put toothpaste back into the into the tube when it goes out? It's impossible to bring it in, right? So with well-being is that the same. Sometimes if you wait too long instead of prevention, as we spoke in the previous conversation, it's too late. So we need to really work in our KPIs and our management, and bring together, make managers to all levels understand that their performance and their KPIs are only going to be achieved through a well-being workforce, a workforce in well-being, not a stress, suffering workforce. I will say that.
Thank you so much. Over to our next speaker.
Thank you, Shevin and Ashwin, and thank you for the team for having me. My name is Muaz Ilhadi. I'm an occupational health specialist with over 20 years experience in oil and gas sectors. Currently, my the employers almost are 90,000 employees. I will take it as the previous speaker. I will take it for actually the listening to this actually to resonate with something I experience or we are all experience in the Middle East currently about the current tension in the Middle East. In this environment, I realized that something that's very important. It wasn't just a pressure on system or operation. The real pressure was on leadership decision, alignment even between the priorities and ultimately on people themselves. And when all three are under pressure at the same time, that's where the things that will start to crash, to be honest. Here we can get the fracture. At the peak of this pressure, the natural reaction around me, and honestly with me as well, was to move faster, push harder, and focus purely on delivery. Because in those moments, speed feel like control, and output feel like a success at the same time. But what I start noticing during this crisis is that this comes at a cost. People literally they stop reflecting, they stop speaking up, and just keep going. The early sign weren't even dramatic. It just was they were subtle, to be honest. They reduce engagement in meeting, less energy in conversation as well, and kind of quite fatigue, to be honest. People were still performing, but you could feel they were caring more than they were expressing. And I think that's the dangerous phase because everything looks fine on the surface. And that made me pause here and ask myself and other colleague, are we actually managing the pressure or are we just passing it down system?
Thank you so much. Brilliant. This is a question we should ask ourselves. Lovely. Harish, would you like to answer it? Attempt.
Yes, and I mean I mean I'll borrow your own statement, Shivani, that we need to ask, all of us need to ask this question to ourselves. Uh, the specific question that if something is not going well when it comes to mental well-being, we all know it's a choice, right? At org level, it's a choice that either being reactive or preventive, which the previous speakers also spoke. That choice boils down to somebody who is human, and in the context of an organization, it's the leaders. So leadership for me is foundational when it comes to making this the talk of the town, making this the mainstream conversation. So take few examples, like if there is an organization where the leader is not very open, right, versus an organization where the leader is more open, she or he is ready to go first, talk openly about their own struggles, what is working, what is not working, openly stating that, hey, I may not really have all the answers, and these are the situations where I needed kind of some support, etc., right? So that single act, if it's repeated across organizations, that is going to manifest positively. Currently it is not happening, and hence it's manifesting as a episodic, I would say, breakdown. So that's one aspect or one example when it comes to leadership. Second is, one of the previous speakers also kind of hinted at this talk of mental wellness or well-being. It has to be integrated at the strategy level, which is not happening, right? So for example, in most of the organizations, we have town halls, we have reviews, operational reviews, performance reviews, and all that. But it's also very important that we come together and then also have some collective reflection, and that becomes part of the routine. The question that I would ask is, uh, are we seeing this across the organizations? And most likely the answer is going to be that, yeah, maybe, or it's very difficult to pinpoint. And since it is not happening like that, the openness to talk about these kind of issues is kind of limited, again related to leadership and the kind of environment, kind of culture that we provide. And third and last point quickly would be also related to leadership, how leaders are developed in organizations. Today when we hire, we look at high pods or high potentials, and we spend a lot of effort training them on strategy, finance, execution, and all that, right? The question again we need to ask is, are we also spending enough time to make them understand their own emotional wiring, the emotional wiring of their peers, how their childhood conditioning is showing up in how they lead, how they respond to failure, all that ultimately shapes the culture. So if we redesign the leadership development to include that layer, I think downstream things will start to change, right? So things are not happening in this way, and that's also the reason that we see the breakdowns, and the question also comes that, hey, why it is breaking down. Over to you, Shivani.
No, thank you so much. So having worked with multiple organizations across industries for so many years, I feel like so there's some organizations that come to us where they want to already build a culture from the starting, right? They say, oh, well-being is to be part of the culture. They don't know what it means yet, but it's got to be part of the culture and so on and so forth. And having said that, there are organizations that are well established, like 20, 25, 30, 40 years they've been in the industry and they're doing fine, and now they're like, oh, now we need to build a better culture. So then that's the topic about culture. Now we talk about the leadership part, the policy part. Having said that, I mean, as a psychologist, I feel like if I'm working in the workplace mental health, I know I've seen a lot, but by the time we have established an organization for 40, 45 years, how have we not got that definition of culture, well-being, policy, all that? How has it not happened? So where does it keep glitching? Where is the glitch? Why does it keep, why do we keep regressing over there? Jane, thoughts?
Thank you. So I agree with what everyone else has said, right? So there's no contention or argument. My thought is this: we're very, very good at doing research, and there is a lot of evidence, without a doubt. And Montserrat, I think your point around the commercial return on investment is such a good one. And anytime I speak to a CEO, a NED, an executive, we always talk about the return on investment from the people perspective, which we've talked about, the individual, the leaders, the culture, the policies. But the other thing I think we're now really strong on is the well certification and the evidence around return on investment for what it means to focus on all of those things along with the environment. And if I bring in the built environment it's not a new concept, it's this idea that actually if you create safe spaces, if you give people great work environments, good lighting, acoustics, green spaces, it's better for your mental health and it's better for your productivity. And so that flows then out not just into your workplace, but links back into the community aspects of it. So what does it look like to create these well precincts? How do you create these spaces where people can work, play, live, engage, connect, communicate? So it's not really answering that question. It's just bringing together all those threads, because I think everyone has said it so beautifully. We tend to have all of these piecemeal approaches, or a day or a event or even a policy. Like, the policies are only as good as the activations and the implementation of the science. And we're really bad at doing that. And we're really bad at teaching our leaders, but also our teams, how to do that and how to practice that and how to make that a reality and how to create those spaces that build curiosity, create opportunities for people to have agency and voice, challenge diversity of thinking, and in almost embrace and celebrate that diversity of thinking. And then I'll finish on one final thing, because I know you're trying to get us to talk less time, more oomph. But one thing that I have really struggled with is the inclusion of people with diverse experiences, particularly disability. So neurodivergent, people with Down syndrome, people with intellectual disabilities. We haven't shifted the dial on that employment at all. And if I think about culture and I think about what really builds amazing cultures, it's when teams support skills that are different, skills that are complementary, skills that add value to things like kindness and empathy. And you can see that particularly in people who live with Down syndrome. The impact of someone working in your environment who has Down syndrome is immeasurable, and yet we can put a figure on it and say actually commercially it's going to get you a much better return because your teams are going to be a better place to work together. So I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very straightforward. You're right. A little bit of oomph. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So if we really had to point a finger, just, for fun, who would we point it at? Where does it really break down? I mean, just for fun. Leadership, culture, policy, any other fingers that are pointed? Please openly speak. I'm not going to call out anybody.
Thank you, Shivani. Actually, it's not for fun, it's for real. For
Thank
me,
you.
the shift started with leadership behavior.
Yeah.
My own first, I realized that it's in uncertain environment, people don't rely on policies. They rely on signals. They just watch how leaders behave and what leaders prioritize and what leaders tolerate at the same time.
Leadership. All right. Perfectly said. Anybody else with aligning or differing thoughts?
I totally align with what he said. Leadership, leadership, leadership. It boils down to that. In my opinion, that's the most important thing.
I think even in the workplaces I have worked with, it's always been like a top-down approach where you watch the leadership take sort of, even if it's like an event or a session, you watch the leadership attending, even that makes a big difference for the team to come in as well and make time and so on and so forth. Any differing thoughts? You feel like it's too much burden on the leadership at this point? Should they be doing everything? Does it also come down to the team member, the individual, themselves?
Well,
Yeah.
I think, can I say something? I think the problem is that it may feel like a burden because currently, as we have mentioned, well-being is portrayed as a nice to have, as something else. Somebody says it's a burden. So of course now, if on top of everything you have to do on your plate, you actually have to look after the well-being of people, and it doesn't work. Well-being is personal. So the culture at best can help people not to get bad being, as our first colleague was saying. Sorry, because we don't see the names. I forgot some of your names. So I think it is too much burden on leadership, but because they need to understand that well-being is intrinsic. It has to be embedded in any action they do. So it's not something else. So they need to take into account what Jen said at the beginning, psychological safety. How people don't want to be pampered at work. I mean, the usage of apps of well-being is very low. And in fact, there is a study in Oxford that shows that many of these apps increase stress because they make you now do this, now meditate. And you're like, oh my God, I'm doing everything it says. I'm stressed because the problem is work. And work is not to be pampered. Work is to work. But people need to understand what we said at the beginning, that pressure doesn't mean equal performance. Because when I like what you said at the beginning, how you started saying that when people push and want to go fast, somehow it slows down more. You know, so to make people perform better, you have to create an environment that nurtures them, not make them languish. And that's what we are creating, because we have the wrong connection in the assumption in the brains of leadership, policymakers, culture makers, that to have more performance, you have to push people. And it's something, if you're suffering is good, and that's not good. It's not sustainable. If you want to go faster, perhaps you can have something hurting you, but to go farther for longer and to achieve your objectives, you need to be well. You need to be good. That's, I think.
Yes. Very lovely. Thank you so much. Any closing thoughts for this particular segment? We've blamed leadership enough. All right.
I take it as leadership, as you mentioned, it's very important. But when we are talking about the breaks down, definitely three of them, uh, it's not one of them. And it's a misalignment between all of them. I mean, leadership, as mentioned, maybe pushing for speed, policies for balance, and culture end up is to normalize the exhaustion, to be honest. And maybe this is where the real breakdown begins.
Totally.
Hmm. Yes, of course. I mean, it's a contribution of elements being where the word breakdown is very strong. So it's at all the three levels. I feel like culture is kind of the outcome, however. It's the outcome, not so much like what we strive we strive for it. It's the consequence of the things that you put in place. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm now looking forward to our next segment. This entire block has been amazing. Thank you to our speakers. I'm bringing you back, guys, all back again for our little letters from the future. So if we were looking back from 2035, because we're in 2026 now, what did high growth organizations finally understand about well-being? It's such a lovely concept to look back, right? It's something it's wishful thinking, maybe. I don't know. And I also have one more speaker, Dr. Brilliant SK, who's going to be joining us here. Dr. Brilliant, you are now live with us. All right. I think all of our speakers from here are here. Sarthak, Dr. Sarthak, I'm adding you in as well once you're ready. So what we're going to do is, I don't think we can share the entire letter, but we will talk about the important points from our letter, because I know it's wishful thinking. So the letter must be very long. All right. I think I'd like Dr. Brilliant to start off, because you've just joined us. So we're again looking back from 2035. Dr. Brilliant, what did high growth organizations finally understand about well-being?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me over. The letter to me, compressed for the audience in a short and compressed format, would be: truth is, by 2035, I have learned well-being is not an extra. It's the way work is being designed. And maybe if we look at work as a design, it's not about perks or apps. It's about priorities, realistic workloads, and most important, respect for time. Managers are the ones who change everything. It's not about the policies, it's not about the culture, it's not about the leadership messages. Managers. One good manager can reduce the stress more than 10 different initiatives or amazing policies and a culture. and one bad manager can completely undo all of that. So the focus needs to shift from what programs do we have to how do our managers show up and behave every single day. I believe flexibility is something which we have been debating for a long. The real question should be, does work fit into your life or does it constantly break it? And inclusion has to be real. Who gets heard? Who gets credit? Who feels safe to speak? It's not about big campaigns, it's just consistent respect. And most important, it's not about being busy, it's about the energies. Busy people get exhausted, but energized people build, create, and stay. Because every time the team gets tired, you can't build great organizations. Energized ones definitely do. And last but not the least, leadership learns to say no. Not everything is urgent, not everything is important. Growth comes from not doing more, but maybe sometimes doing less, but in a better way. And I would summarize it in what Amitabh Bachchan would have said, मेरी जिंदगी का तंबू तो तीन बंबुओं पे गड़ा हुआ है. The three pillars of my life. Purpose is the why. It will attract talent, customers who share your values. Profit is about the how much, the fuel that will always allow you to scale with impact. And the most important, the foundation, well-being, is how long, the maintenance system that prevents the engine from seizing up. One small step, one team, one habit, one honest conversation. It is from a wiser me in 2035. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brilliant. All right. I don't want to say a lot. I wanted to just be immersed into everybody's minds as we go through these letters. Asking Jane to go next. Please, Jane, you're up. Pulling you in.
Thank you. And I loved your words, Dr. Brilliant. Fantastic. It's beautiful. So for me, I had so much fun doing this and putting together my letter, and I put a little infographic on LinkedIn. But in summary, I think looking back, wellbeing improves productivity and is commercially savvy, and all chairs, non-executive directors, executives, leaders, and people understand that and embrace that and encourage that. And it's not around the days and the strategies and plans and all of the different things that we've all talked about. It is actually embedded into the day-to-day operations. So everybody has a wellbeing plan. Organizations prioritize wellbeing, and there's metrics that allow boards to see that it's actually being done well. We have these well-aligned venues and precincts so that the science of wellbeing is brought to life. Social prescribing becomes a real thing, and I am and sit as the Chief Strategy and Growth Officer for Alara Global, which is a hospitality, employment and training end-to-end platform. I truly believe that we can start to shape the way our precincts and our pubs, our clubs, our coffee shops, our restaurants, places where people spend time, that they actually start to think about it as a antidote to loneliness and an antidote to improving mental health and wellbeing. So that social connection, that vibrancy, engaging and having conversations, connecting, eating great food, looking after yourself and the people that you care for. And we know that the evidence says that social inclusion and social participation is so good for your mental health. And then I'll finish with, again, back to my hot topic, the employment of people who bring diversity of thinking and diversity of thought to the table and actually start to change the way we think about workplaces so that they become places where we can create, connect, and do great things for the community and for the world in which we live. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Jane. Harish, letter from the future from you.
This is a very interesting concept, by the way, going into 2035 and then thinking back. So I also realized that globally and regionally, the maturity levels when it comes to this important topic, it is quite different as on today, 2026. The first thing that comes to my mind that most of the the entire world is kind of calibrated, is at the same level when it comes to the maturity around thinking, talking, and executing around mental well-being. So in terms of the turning points, I think there are two, three areas. One is creating a amicable environment. Second would be integrating well-being into the org level strategy. Those things would be happening, and also some bit of policy related, not push or compliance, but creating that safe space using policy also would be happening. So if I take an example, for example, from the environment point of view, I spoke about the lack of mental well-being, integration into the language or the vocabulary. I think over next 10 years that is going to happen. It is going to feel much more inclusive. The kind of summit that you guys are organizing, those kind of uh, attempts would be more, getting people from all the cultures together. That will happen. So we will get used to the vocabulary and the language of mental well-being. That's one thing which comes to my mind. Second part is the org strategy. So when we talk about purpose, mission, I think most of the organizations, high growth organizations, would have this mental well-being integrated into their purpose, mission. And because of that, we will also see that getting included in the hiring practices, the way you hire, the way you onboard new resources, where the founders and the CEOs spending, let's say, half an hour just talking about the values and how in those values support systems, and talking about failures and all that is very natural in my organization, right? Similarly, leadership development, talking about innovation more, failures are okay, that kind of conversation is going to be kind of mainstream in the organization. So that's the second aspect. Third, from a policy point of view, I would hope that the policy is going to motivate more and more organizations to take preventive approach rather than reactive approach, right? So that's the third thing. Just in the interest of time, I will just stop here. Over to you, Shivani.
I keep saying, wishful thinking for us, but I think we're
Yeah, yeah.
all working towards it. So that's what we're doing. I have with me Tara here. Tara, this is the first time you're speaking now for this segment, so please introduce yourself. We'd love to know about you and, of course, your letter.
Yes, thank you so much, Vani. So, I am a psychologist, an organizational psychologist. I am working with one of the big fours for South Asia, and I manage their mental health portfolio. So that's a little bit about me. And on to the letter. I think I have a very letter formatted letter. I would love to read that. And here we go. So, dear 2025, 2026, you kept trying to add more to fix well-being, more sessions, more tools, more conversations. But the real shift, we didn't add more. We just changed the rules of the game. We stopped building well-being around work, and we started rebuilding work through well-being. Deadlines have stopped being aspirational, and they've become real. Urgent has stopped meaning everything. And suddenly people could breathe without feeling like they were falling behind. We stopped glorifying exhaustion, the late nights, the constant hustle, and the quiet burnout, and it's lost its shine. Sustainable became impressive. Managers changed the most. Again, wishful thinking, not in title but in behavior. They stopped just driving outcomes and started shaping experiences. A good manager just didn't deliver results, they created energy, clarity, trust, and psychological safety. We made one small but powerful shift. We started asking, at what cost? Every goal, every sprint, every big ambition, what will this demand from our people, is the question that we have been asking, and it's become a non-negotiable one. And that question changed everything. We got honest about flexibility. It wasn't about where you worked from. It was about whether you could switch off without guilt. We stopped calling burnout a resilience problem, and we took a hard look at that. The one But eventually, we saw it for what it was, a design flaw and not a personal one. It was not an individual problem. So we redesigned. Fewer performative check ins, more real conversations. Fewer policies, more consistency in behavior. And fewer perks, more permission to pause. And here's the part to no one expected. When people didn't feel stressed all the time, they didn't slow down. They showed up better. They thought clearer. They stayed longer. They created more. And they loved to be around each other. Growth didn't suffer, it became smarter. Looking back, well being didn't need more noise, it needed courage to question pace, to challenge what we rewarded, to choose the people even if it felt inconvenient. You were trying to support people through broken systems, we just fixed the systems, and that's changed. That's what changed everything. So with a little more clarity, 2035. I think I took a little more time, but here it is.
Oh no, it's beautiful. This is really beautiful, especially the calling burnout a resilience problem.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you so much, Vani.
All right. I'd now like to invite Monstera. Here we go, calling you in. We've got
Yes.
two more letters, and I'm really
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to hearing it out. Here you go.
Thank you. Truly, at my age, I have to say this was quite challenging to think 10 years ahead. It makes me almost in the age of retiring, which I'm not planning to do. But here it goes. I'm going to just read a part of it, and later, taking Jane's initiative, I may publish it in LinkedIn, but I will keep it short. So I feel like Michael J. Fox, in Back to the Future. So, dear leaders of 2026, I am writing to you from 2035, from a world that has had to learn some lessons the hard way. By now, the smartest organizations no longer speak about well being as if it were a side initiative, as an HR campaign or a collective of perks designed to keep tired people quiet. They finally understood something that should have been obvious all along. People do not thrive because of fruit baskets, mindful apps, or posters about balance. They thrive when work itself is designed in a more human, intelligent, meaningful, and sustainable way. They understood that well being was never about making work feel soft, it was about removing pointless friction, chronic ambiguity, unnecessary urgency, performative leadership, and cultures of fear. It was about helping people do meaningful work without paying for success with their health, their dignity, or their family life, as my colleagues have already said. Some leaders had to learn that burnout is not a problem of the individual. It is often a design problem, a leadership problem, a culture problem, even a societal problem. By 2035, the best organizations had to stop romanticizing exhaustion. They no longer confuse pressure with performance, presence with productivity, or control with leadership. They realize that fear may produce short bursts of compliance and energy, but never kind of creativity and movement and trust and intelligent contribution that real growth requires. And they also discovered something else. Well being and accountability were never enemies. In fact, mature organizations learn to respect both. High standards and human decency, ambition and recovery, performance and respect. The false choice had finally collapsed. Almost finished. One more. The most evolved companies become better at asking different questions. Not just how do we get more out of people, but what kind of environment brings out the best in people. Not just how do we move faster, but what unnecessary complexity can I remove out of the way? Not just how do we retain talent, but why would any sane, healthy person will stay here? And here, perhaps the biggest shift. They understood that agency matters and that people can endure difficulty when they feel there is meaning, fairness, and some degree of control. What destroys them is not the effort, the push alone, but helplessness. Not challenge, but the feeling of being trapped in a system that makes no sense for them. The organizations that flourish in 2035, they learn how to build cultures where people feel informed, they trust their managers, they find useful work and able to influence reality and control their sphere of influence. That changed everything.
Amazing. Controlling their own sphere of influence. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
inspired. I'm inspired. I'm not saying a lot, just moving from one letter to the other. I'll now invite Gaira to come ahead with your letter. So much passion in the way we've all thought about this question. I love that Dr. Ashwin got to us through his skills on asking us to do these activities. Perfect. All right, over to you, your letter.
Thank you. Um, that was really, like you've said, it was really inspiring, all those letters, and they're very creative and um, innovative in a way. Unfortunately, I do not have that creative streak within me. So my letter is very much straightforward, I would say. 2035 is what, 9 years from now, and I'm just really hoping that 9 years is enough for all of us to learn and apply what we've learned. But if I'm to look at it a positive way, in 2035, hopefully organizations would realize by then that well-being was never meant to be a side project. It's not a wellness app, it's not a campaign, and it's not an HR initiative. It's well-being simply is the way we work. It's the way we work and how people are treated every day. And organizations that have figured this out by 2035 would have already stopped trying to, treat well-being as a separate part of work. Instead, they would build this into leadership behavior, um, team culture, and how decisions are made. They would have already realized that constantly pushing people harder doesn't necessarily create better performance. And sustainable performance comes from, as one of the speakers earlier mentioned, energy, being energized, or even how people, have that trust and clarity at work, and not endless urgency. They would have also already understood that psychological safety is a business necessity. It's not just a nice to have. People need to feel safe to speak up, ask for help, and admit mistakes. In many environments, that's not just about well-being, it's about safety and good decision making, especially for an environment like where I am in, for example, where it is a highly safety critical industry. And most importantly, organizations by then would have already realized that the real experience of work is shaped by managers. Policies matter, yes, and organizations' intentions matter as well. But the everyday culture of a team and the everyday experience of an employee is largely defined by how their leaders communicate, how their leaders respond to pressure, and how their leaders support their people. And finally, organizations by then would have already understood that support only works if employees truly feel it. Perceived support is more important than, the programs that are available. It is not enough for support to exist on paper, and people need to believe that it is safe and genuine and accessible for everyone. So hopefully in 2035, when we're looking back, in all the 9 years that have passed, hopefully the lesson would be really simple for all of us, is that well-being was never about programs or perks. It's about the daily choices that leaders make and the kind of environment where those choices are created.
I was on mute. I was saying, wow, perceived support. What a lovely statement. Two words that I'm taking away as well. Thank you so much. You really
Thank you.
got there. Thank you. Dr. Sathak, you are up next for our final letter from the future today.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay. So my letter says, dear colleague of 2026, looking back from 2035, one of the most important things organization finally understood about wellness and lifespan are not the same. For years, we focused on how long people live. They live, their energy, their clarity, their emotional stability, their ability to truly experience life and uncomfortable. Employees was spending the majority of the health span at work. Not just their time, but productive, most energetic, capable years were being invested inside the organizations. That was no seen as a benefit or an initiative. It became a responsibility. Are the prime custodians of people's health span, then culture is not just about performance, how people feel, function, and live during the years that matters the most. The most were not high growth companies, they were cultures, energy, respected human limits, and designed work way in both performance and life. We stopped asking how do we help employee from work. Work itself does not take away from their ability to live well. That shift changed the future of work and perhaps the future of life itself. Warm regards from 235.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not seen as a benefit. Yeah, that's what I got from
Yeah.
here. Thank you so much. All
Yeah.
right, so that ends our letters from the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin, because he really made us think this through. And I think it was a very beautiful way to see, to bring together, like I was saying, like minded individuals coming together to sort of get on this mission to make the world a better place. That's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to figure out all the little nooks and ways that we can do that and sort of add and embed well being into our everyday life, whether it's in organizations or in our own lives. Moving on to the final segment with my speakers, my beautiful speakers today, we're going to do a quick reflection round. So, how this will work is it's actually a grounding practice. So, our cameras will be off for about 7 minutes. All right. What we'll do is I'll just put up the question for us that we need to reflect upon. You can take out your pen and paper, phone, whatever you prefer. Write out real time reflections from everybody you've gathered, thoughts from today, and just really pour it out. Maybe create certain bullet points out of that. And after those 7 minutes, we come back live on the stage, and we'll have a quick round of sharing. So that's how this will work. And I'll play some mild music while we're all at it. I also would like to take like a 5 minutes to gather my thoughts. So we'll come back in about 5-ish minutes. I'm putting out the prompt for us to reflect upon. Here we go. What should leaders start doing differently today?
Where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. rise, don't you say? The stars, they glimmer steep of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gungroos chime, a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold.
All right, we are back. I hope our speakers had enough time to gather their thoughts, their emotions, and whatever they felt about the entire segment to really pour it down and write it out and also gather their thoughts. I think reflecting after so many multiple conversations and thoughts is very important, and to do it silently is much better than to just keep adding thoughts on top of the other. For a quick summary for Block 1, which is the first segment of our Global Workplace Wellbeing Summit 2026, we covered a few things. One was, of course, we asked our speakers what are some things that we are still getting wrong when it comes to these high growth economy organizations. Where does well-being really break down? Does it break down at leadership level, policy, culture? And of course, we heard so many multiple thoughts about it. We also had a quick round of lovely, inspiring sharing, where we looked back from 2035. And as I like to call it, it was like our wishful thinking list, I think. Everybody shared one question, which is what did high growth organizations finally learn or crack about well-being that we want them to learn probably today. And finally, we are now here at the last part of the segment, which is from insight to intention. We're walking away with one thought today out of everything we've thought about and talked about, and that is what should leaders start doing differently today? What should leaders start doing differently today? And as I say this question out, I feel like we shouldn't always put leaders as a category of like the typical authoritative figure in an organization. I feel like leaders should also be people who take charge of themselves or a community or an entity, or leadership means more than just being sort of like the manager in an organization, right? So leading for yourself, for others, will reflect upon that aspect as well. So that's the narrative that we'd like to follow when we do this round of sharing. So now I'll invite all of the speakers one by one. All right, just bear with me a moment. Perfect. It's loading. I think all of you are on. Yes. Yes, all of you are on. Perfect. So, I'll keep it open. I know we started this whole thing with doing like a tagging thing and then sort of calling out each other's names. But I think let's just keep it open and have a quick thought and a round of reflection. And if anything comes up in that moment, we do have some time to sort of close it if we need to at that time. So please go ahead. Do you want me to pick somebody as usual? Okay, I will pick somebody. I will pick Tara. start us off.
Okay, yes. I think I missed a very important point. I heard all of you and you had such important things to share. But one thing that I would want to sort of bring our attention back to is how the generational gap is also being a very major aspect in the corporates right now, and how the younger population is being rather shamed for the way they're working and what are their expectations and their boundaries regarding workplace setting. So I think what could leaders do differently for this particular point is they need to be a little more mindful and aware about the kind of generation that they're speaking with. So maybe having different ways of communicating with younger employees, say for example more frequent check-ins, talking about mental health, like labeling it and talking about it, because younger people are much more prone to having these conversations and they're very open about it. And when it comes to mid-career level professionals, talk about workload, talk about work-life balance, talk about boundaries and support. And when it comes to senior folks, talk about pressure, talk about fatigue, talk about the invisible stress that they don't feel like sharing, and they're not very used to sharing and talking about what they feel. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I will call out names, I guess. Uh, Jane, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I love that you call the reflection of 2035 a wishful thinking list. So I think we should publish that as a book and make sure that every leader reads it, because I think it would give them some great insights. It's been fabulous to hear from all of you internationally, and I feel that I have plenty of people to visit when I go on my travels. And likewise, I would love you to visit if you ever come to Australia, because I think this global movement is well and truly with us. There's two things, apart from reading our wishful thinking list book, that I think leaders should do. I think they need to walk the floor. They need to, regardless of what industry they're in, they actually need to go and sit and talk to their workforce. And when I say leaders, I mean the non-executive directors, the chairs of boards, CEOs, executives. Too often they sit in their offices or they sit at a board table without really understanding what is going on in a workplace and where there are pain points and where there are disconnects and where their leaders aren't really understanding what's going on. My second thing actually links, I forgot your name, to the first speaker, but I really truly believe that every leader should have a brain's trust of young people who are providing advice to them. It could be mentee, mentor, but we often look to older people, our leaders, as the mentor, and don't ever think about the role that young people can play as mentors to older people or to leaders. And I think there's so much knowledge, expertise, skills, curiosity that we can learn from young people. And again, I had the benefit of having a brains trust in one of the companies that I led, and they advised our board and our non-executive directors, and it just changed the culture of the company. They came up with the values. They described the behaviours that sat behind the values. And so I think that idea of a youth brains trust or an advisory is probably what I would reflect on, that all leaders should have or need.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Gaira, go for it.
Yes, thank you. Like everyone said, everyone really shared, really inspiring things. And I agree with Jane. Actually, it would be really, if only the leaders were in this summit along with us, right? If only they were also listening to what everyone has to say. One of the first things that I mentioned earlier from the very first question was about how maybe we should look at the system instead of constantly or hyper focusing on on supporting individuals cope with unhealthy systems. Maybe we should look at why systems are unhealthy. So on that, I'd say maybe the leaders should start, on what the leaders should start doing differently today. Maybe the leaders should look closely at things like workload communication during uncertainty, and ensuring that managers are equipped to support their teams. Because a lot of the times, many managers actually want to help, but haven't necessarily been given the skills to have those conversations. And of course, consistency as well. Employees tend to pay attention to whether the organization um, the organization's decisions align with what they say about the culture of well-being in the company. So yeah, just those two things I would say.
Montserrat. Yeah.
Hi. Well, it's difficult to add anything else because everybody had said so many inspiring things. But I will say that as the world is preparing, to face also some more uncertainty, and especially some of us living in the region now, in the Emirates, in the Gulf, we can be testimony of that. Perhaps fear might be very useful tool to use as a manager because it gives you immediate attention of people and short bursts of energy and compliance. However, it comes to a high price, and is that in the brains of people, it activates the bad being circuit, the helpless and hopeless that is responsible for this pandemic of mental health. So in the short term, it's not an option. We are paying the cost now. Fear has a very high cost that we can no longer afford. So hope is the only thing that can switch off that part of our brains and make people move, make people grow. So my final statement will be that I will ask managers to stop extracting effort by fear, because there are always fear. Sometimes these guys have as well-being, but it's fear. If you don't do this, you will get fired in the short essence. And replace that with leadership. They need to elevate, become leaders, and create growth by infusing hope in people. And hope is nothing metaphysical. Hope is believing what the future has for you, what you are creating, is better, is a positive outcome, and it implies agency. So if it's active hope and no wishful hope. So that will be and it's much cheaper, also hope, because it activates the neurocircuit of helpless. And for that, we need to support our leaders, because somebody said before me that leaders don't know, managers don't have the skills. And this is the main skill we need to teach them. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Hope over fear. Yes. Dr. Brilliant, over to you.
Thank you, Shivani, Ashwin, and Team Mana. I'm truly grateful to have the opportunity to share space with some amazing people. And as I reflected, I realized what you said so powerfully. We should not keep blaming the leaders. We are also a part of the entire process. So I would move that from the leaders to we. I think we need to reframe the narrative. We need to understand that well-being is not the enemy of performance. It's the fuel that helps you get where you want to, and that needs to come from a very strong communication and ensuring that we model the balance that we want to see. Today the culture is of FaceTime, right? Visibility equals to productivity, and we need to move from a culture of FaceTime to a culture of outcome and impact, and I think that will do a lot of good. In summary, if I were to put what we as leaders should do, is LMS. L stands for long term thinking. M is, as leaders, we need measurement. Measurement of well being and its impact is critical, because all said and done, until and unless we are able to showcase outcomes, it really doesn't make a difference. And that's what we need to strive for. And last but not the least is S, which is showcase champions who can actually talk about wellness, how they overcame their challenges, and how it has made a difference. When leaders showcase champions from within the leadership team, that speaks more than all the written policies or everything else that you want to do. So, in summary, LMS, long term thinking, measure your well being, and showcase champions. Thank you so much. Back to you, Shivani.
Dr. Brilliant always leaves us with acronyms, even on his LinkedIn posts. There's different creative stuff that he keeps writing. Thank you. Today's LMS. Lovely. Harish, over to you.
On a lighter note, going last is always, or towards the end is always, easier, because you can say I totally align and agree with most of my previous speakers, which is a fact. I was just thinking when you gave us those 5-7 minutes that these 2 hours are so well spent. And Shivani and Dr. Ashwin, I really hope that we publish the learnings from today's sessions, all the blogs that you have throughout the day, and all of us also are participating. We take it on us to share those learnings with the larger world. Most of the pointers that I had in my mind is also covered, but couple of things, because the previous thing that we did was 2026 to 2035, right? And then we looking back. So that also gives us certain action points which can be also kind of summarized. The first thing that comes to my mind is all the leaders, including all of us, need to carry a very open mindset. Understand that, how do I put it? The human stress responses are actually biological. It's not linked to the capability of an individual. So some days are going to be great, some days are not going to be that great, and people will struggle, and it's going to be normal. And I really like what Tara said, that these struggles are going to be varying across the generations. And as a leader, you need to be cognizant of that fact. And around that, we build routines and culture that supports everyone. So that's something that boils down to our own mindset, that we carry that open mindset. And second would be that as leaders, we need to lead from the front, and we don't delegate to a chief wellness officer. What I mean is, we identify a person from the organization, and then we say, hey, we have to show up, and hence we will, leave everything to that person, right? So let's lead from the front. And by that, what I mean is share our own, struggles, openly talk about that, say that it's okay not to have kind of, all solutions or all answers and all that, right? So if we do it not once, on multiple occasions, whether is the strategic performance review, or something like we just coming together and just reflecting on various things, if we take that lead, I think the entire organization will also understand that it's very normal to kind of talk about these conversations, and that will translate to a much safer space. So these are two things which comes to my mind immediately. Happy to share, and over to you, Shreya.
Thank you. We have Dr. Sarthak.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you very much, Sivani and Dr. Ashwin. And it was really great to listen everybody here from a different part of the world and different thoughts here. So when I was thinking about what should leaders start doing differently today, there were two things which came to my mind. Of course, after the session entirely 2 hours. One is about measuring energy or well-being rather than just measuring performance, right? I think one of the speaker mentioned about that. That is something very important, which I think leaders should start doing it. And second thing is about building psychological safety as a skill in leadership, and having it from a point of view of a founder's mentality. I mean, people who are at the top, or working as a leader, as what Shivani said. So that psychological safety as one of the primary leadership skills should be developed from the point of view of leaders. They should be start doing all of those things. I think these two thoughts were there from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And to our viewers out there, I just want to, those who are watching this, summit, I want to say something very important that is not related to any of our segments, because I feel like we've really covered it to the T. I keep referring to the people here, the individuals who have participated in the summit, as speakers. They're not just speakers, There are people who have gone into the, the entire crux and nooks and things of organizational well-being, workplace well-being. Some of them are authors, most of them are, really action. I think the word that I'm looking for is they are all people who have taken action already. They're not just speakers. And so, what we're doing through this summit is talking about the actions and the interventions that they've already taken throughout these many years, according to their expertise, their skill set, and they come with a host of experience. So, one thing personally that I would like leaders who are probably watching this or will watch this, hopefully, you're watching this, to take away from our summit first segment today is that we're not just talking about this. This is just us sharing our experience. We've really gone in, done the work, figured things out, collected data, come out with insights, and that's what you're getting today. You're getting those insights. You're not getting random individuals coming together and just talking about a topic. That's not what this is. You're getting people who have taken action coming in and telling us what's working, what's not working, what's the problem, where is the problem, this is how to fix it. That is what we're really getting into with this summit today. So, with that, I will close our first segment. Thank you all for joining in. Not just speakers, beautifully spoken, but I think real change makers, action takers, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like that's like the position that we need to take a stand on now. Because most of the times people just think we talk, we get online, we talk, and then, life goes on. Tomorrow it's again the same thing. But that's not what this is. It's a real change. Thank you, everyone. And if you'd like to watch us for the next segment, we are here throughout the day, as you know. We'll have more interesting speakers coming in. And if you want to participate, you can just join the link, come in, hop in, share your thoughts, and share out, and I'll pull you in as and when required. All right. So until hopefully soon, not next time. I don't know when next time is, but hopefully soon. Thank you all. Take care. Lovely having you all here today.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hearing the voice within, a song of loss where love begins. The rumbling sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand doomsday shifts they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anthems rise. Don't you stay? The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand it knows my name. Can you hear it? The voice within. A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. People hearing the voice within, a song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. Doomsday shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count, shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars, they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Oh, heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. People hearing the voice within, a song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. Doomsday shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count, shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep, new ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind, but whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain, each grain of sand it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Oh, heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep, new ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind, but whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. rise, don't you stay. The stars, they glimmer steep of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind. But whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars, they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a pull from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep, new ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway, the wind whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain, each grain of sand it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Oh, heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a pull from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence. don't you stay? The stars, they glimmer steep of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. A thousand dunes they shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars, they glimmer steep of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call. Her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep. New ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace. Clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep. New ones are born. searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime, a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain, each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gungroos chime, a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep, new ones are born. A thousand doomsday shift, they sway the wind that whispers, don't you stay. A count of shadows stretched so long, footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime, a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain, each grain of sand knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Heart of mine, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gungroos chime, a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. The gurus chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold, feelings buried, stories untold. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of loss where love begins. Her anklets sing a poem from silence deep, new ones are born. Peacocks cry in the storm's embrace, clouds that gather leave no trace. Dreams like bangles shattered, worn from silence deep, new ones are born. A thousand doomsday shift, they sway the wind. Whispers, don't you stay. A count shadows stretched so long. Footsteps fade, where do I belong? Oh, heart of my mind, why do you roam? Searching skies, never a home. The sun burns bright, the night's so cold. Feelings buried, stories untold. The cuckoo's chime a distant call, her anklets sing, rise, don't you stay. The stars they glimmer, speak of pain. Each grain of sand, it knows my name. Can you hear it, the voice within? A song of